good morning. We're back on the record with case on trial.
And good morning to all.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning, Mr. Scully. Mr. Narkunis, what is the decision of Ms. Church whether or not to testify?
She has chosen not to testify, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Church, I'm going to have a brief conversation with you about that decision. If you would stand up just while we chat with each other. No need. Ms. Church, Mr. Narkunis has told me it's your decision not to testify at this trial. You've heard me state over and over again throughout the course of this trial to this jury that a decision of a defendant whether or not to testify is theirs to make. They have an absolute right not to. And if you do not testify, I am prepared to tell this jury in my final instructions that they may not consider that in any way in assessing whether the Commonwealth has proved the charge made against you. And I'll go so far as to tell the jury that they may not even discuss the fact that you've chosen not to testify in their deliberations. What I want you to understand, however, is that you have an absolute right to testify if you wish to do so. Do you understand that?
Yes.
It's important that you have consulted with your attorneys, Mr. Narkunis and Mr. Scully, about this decision, and I have no doubt that you have. I've provided opportunity for you to do that. And it's important that you give due consideration to their advice and counsel because they're very able and experienced attorneys. But in the end, it's your decision whether or not to testify. Do you understand that?
I do.
So regardless of whatever advice you may be receiving from your attorneys, if you wish to testify, you have the right to do so. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Is it your decision, Ms. Church, not to testify?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. You may be seated. Just a couple of other housekeeping matters, or really matters that relate to the instructions, and we're still waiting for 2 jurors, by the way. First, with respect to my practice, which you may or may not have noticed in reading the instructions, of letting the jury pick their own foreperson, does anyone have an objection to that practice? Mr. Camelio?
No, Judge.
All right, very good. I think I sent the added instruction, the Commonwealth requested instruction on prior inconsistent statements. I was operating and addressing that particular request under the federal rules of evidence and not ours, uncorrected by anyone else, I might add, that these statements come in substantively. They do not. So actually the limiting instruction is appropriate in any event. As I said in my email to Ms. Draper that I think she probably included in her email to you, I just worked right off. There's a very good district court model instruction, which is what I used. Any issues with that instruction, Mr. Camelio?
No, Judge, thank you for saving no issues, Your Honor.
All right. 2 other things about the instructions that I've tweaked just a little bit that I want to bring to your attention, and I haven't yet printed out copies because I'm going to go back and send them to our judicial secretary, and each counsel will have their own copy. But first, in terms of selecting a replacement deliberating juror, should we come to that, what I've always said in my instructions is that we would just select the first chosen alternate to go in first if we lost the deliberating juror, then the second alternate. I've tweaked that a little bit, really to comport with Ms. Draper's fairly standard practice, and I think it's probably a fairly standard practice elsewhere, which is that if we were to lose a deliberating juror, we'd just take the 4 selected alternates, put their numbers in a drum, and randomly select a replacement, and do that anytime we needed to select a replacement. Any issues with that, Mr. Camelio? Mr. Scully?
No issues, Your Honor.
All right. Finally, I did a little tweak to the section that discussed the verdict form because I realized I referenced 3 options: not guilty, guilty of first-degree murder, guilty of second-degree murder, which did not reflect the fact that there's 2 theories of murder. So there's really the options are really 4. So I just tweaked it to reflect that the verdict form has not guilty, guilty first-degree murder, deliberate premeditation, guilty first-degree murder by extreme atrocity or cruelty, or guilty of second-degree murder. So those are the only changes I've made. Any issue with that, Mr. Camelio? Mr. Scully?
No, I don't think so, Judge.
That's all I had. 2 defense witnesses this morning?
Correct. 2 defense witnesses, both present.
Both present. Excellent.
We have both of our chairs now.
We're all set then. All right. So you can line them up and bring them in.
I just have one thing before we bring in the jurors.
Sure.
I did get an email from Mr. Scully last night about the medical records that he plans to read to the jury this morning. And obviously, I don't have a problem with reading some medical records to the jury, but this, by my count, is 17 pages of medical records, which I think might be.
That
is too much.
I think it comes down to about 25 words.
In total?
I think it's something like that. So the pages are, there's a date of a page. So I gave them the page rate for the medical records. So like page 43 to 46, which is part of Exhibit 8. I'll read the date and then turn to page 46 and read the 5 words on that page that I highlighted. And then I'll go to the next one. So I think it came out to like 25 or 30 words.
So you're talking about just a minute or two in front of the jury?
I think a minute or two. My plan was to just, because I don't want to drop the paper.
That's acceptable. I think Mr. Camelio's concern was you were going to be up there reading 17 pages. That's fine. That's fine. Absolutely fine. One last thing is it's my expectation that we will hear the testimony of the 2 defense witnesses. The defense will rest. We'll excuse the jury. I'll hear the defense motion, and then we'll give counsel a break before we proceed to part 1 of instructions, closings, and then the final instructions. All right. So we're set whenever the jury comes in. Do you want to?
I'm gonna. I have
Yes, copies for them.
so
Okay.
This had the incorrect docket number. So
Oh, okay. Yes, we are. Thanks, Matt.
all set.
Good to go, Maddie. Good to go. Come right in.
Oh, yes.
Thank you.
All right, for the jurors. Be seated.
Good morning, jurors. Since we saw each other yesterday afternoon, has any member of the jury discussed the substance of this case with anyone, including among yourselves? No. Since we last saw each other, has any member of the jury seen, read, heard, or overheard anything from any outside source about any aspect of this case? No. Excellent. We're continuing with the presentation of the defense case. The defense counsel may call their next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Defense calls Dr. Edmund Crouch.
May we pause for just a moment? I want everybody to stay in place. I'm going to absent myself for about 30 seconds. I forgot to do one thing before I brought you in. We have finalized the jury instructions. I need to send them to our judicial secretary to start copying them, and I want that to occur while the witness's testimony is going on. So people stay in place. I will leave the bench. No stand up, sit down. I'll just come and go. In a moment, I'll be right back.
You want him to go to the witness stand? I'll wait till the judge comes. Do me a favor, just stand. Are you going to stand right I'll stand over here.
What did you do while I was gone?
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in the cause now in hearing shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you. You may be seated.
Short version. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Dr. Crouch, there's a microphone in front of you that not only will amplify your voice so the jury and others hear it clearly, but it also is recorded. So if you can stay as close to that microphone as comfortable and possible.
Thank you.
That
Is
will be
this
good.
okay?
I think so. So in a loud, clear voice, could you please introduce yourself for the record, stating your first name and spelling your last name?
My name is Edmund Crouch, C-R-O-U-C-H.
And I referred to you already as Dr. Crouch. What is the basis of that title?
I have a PhD.
Okay. So Dr. Crouch, with respect to that, could you describe for the jury your educational background?
I started in a high school in England, what would be called a high school here, public school. It was called a public school in England, which was actually semi-private. Moved from there to Churchill College, Cambridge, where I studied natural sciences and obtained a BA in natural sciences, which automatically converted to an MA after 3 years of good behavior, and subsequently did a PhD in theoretical physics.
Okay, and where did you obtain a PhD in theoretical
This
physics?
was all at Churchill College, Cambridge, England.
And how long have you been a PhD? Or what year did you obtain it, if you recall?
About 1972.
Okay. And that was in England, obviously,
That
right?
was England, yes.
And you still have your English accent.
I'm told that, yes.
You live in America
Yes,
and in the greater Boston area
yes.
for how many years?
It's now, I think, 46, 49 years, something like that. I came over in 1977.
And could you briefly describe for the jury any professional associations that you belong to? And if there's a long, long list, you don't have to name them all, but to give them a sense of those.
Well, I'm a member of the American Association of the AAAS. I forget the full nomenclature. The American Mathematical Society, the Mathematical Association of America, the Society for Risk Analysis, maybe a couple of others. Oh, the American Chemical Society.
And over time, have you published papers and articles in the field that you work in?
Various papers in various fields as I move through various fields of work.
Now, employment-wise, what do you do now?
Now I'm part of a two-person small company, both of us semi-retired. we consider ourselves consultants. We work for clients when on pretty well whatever they want to do with chemistry, risk assessment, toxicology. My colleague is a chemist and toxicologist. I consider myself a risk assessor, but that covers a wide range of fields, but primarily chemical risk assessment of chemicals.
Okay. And prior to that, from 1992 to 1994 or thereabouts, were you a lecturer at Harvard University?
For a short time period, yes.
And after, during that period and until about 2012, did you work as a senior scientist at Cambridge Environmental Incorporated in Cambridge, Massachusetts?
Yes.
And after that, were you a principal at C.D. Smith in Cambridge?
Yes, that was my title, I believe, there.
Okay. And have you also associated with Harvard University in the Department of Physics for many years?
Yes, that's what I came over originally in 1977 to work as a postdoc in the Jefferson lab.
Okay. And so did there come a time when you were approached by the defense team, in this case, to look at the amount of ethylene glycol that was present in certain locations?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And could you describe basically, you know the name Leroy Fowler, right?
Yes.
Did you undertake something to look at how much ethylene glycol was in his system at the time that he died?
Not at the time he died, at the time he first presented at Anna Jaques Hospital.
And so part of what you did was look at how much ethylene glycol was in his system when he first presented at Anna Jaques, right?
That is correct, yes.
Did you come to a conclusion about that?
I did, yes.
What was that?
My conclusion was that he held, at the time of presentation, he had about 28.5 grams of ethylene glycol in his system.
Okay. And in order to get to that conclusion, how did you get there, basically, if you could explain to the jury?
Yes. I started with the measurement of ethylene glycol in his blood performed at NMS labs on behalf of the state police labs. They contracted it out to NMS. That was a measure of 52 milligrams per deciliter, which is the same as 520 milligrams per liter. Now, ethylene glycol, when it gets into the body, when it's ingested, is absorbed fairly rapidly and spreads throughout the body. It's carried around the body by the blood. And in the body, in the blood and throughout the body, it's dissolved in the water of the body. It doesn't dissolve pretty well at all in fat and protein and muscle and bone. It's just in the water component of those parts of your body. Now, we can estimate accurately the total amount of water in the body. This is a subject which has been extensively studied in the literature because it's useful in pharmacokinetic calculations. And it can be estimated accurately from one's height, weight, and age. And I estimated that using the best available methodology in the literature. And that came out to 46.5 kilograms, 45.6 liters of water, which is the same as 46.5 kilograms, which is about 51% of Mr. Fowler's body weight. I'm a presentation to Anna Jaques. So with that information and the concentration in blood, well, that's the concentration in blood. concentration in the water is a little bit higher because blood is only about 85% by volume water. So the concentration in the water, in the blood, and hence in the total water in the body is higher by a factor of 1 over 0.85. It's 85%. Sorry, not 80%. 1 over 0.85 times the concentration in blood, which gives you 612 milligrams per liter. So now it's 612 milligrams per liter and 46.5 liters. Multiply the two together, and you get 24,800, I think it was, milligrams of ethylene glycol in the whole of the body water, and that means in the body, which is 28.5 grams total.
Okay. And so you were able to come to that conclusion, and you were relying largely on medical from Anna Jaques Hospital and the laboratory records that tested his blood at NMS laboratory, right?
Anna Jaques gives me the body weight when he got there, have the date of birth from various sources to get his age, and the weight, and his height was measured at autopsy as 5'10". So I got his height, weight, and age.
By reviewing the autopsy report and records.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Now, so you've got that calculation for the amount of ethylene glycol in his blood at presentment at Anna Jaques.
Well, in his whole body,
In his whole body.
yes.
And did you then also seek to determine how much ethylene glycol was in what's been referred to as the sample from the Powerade that NMS tested in this case?
Yes, again, the state police lab contracted out to NMS, and they measured the residue from the Powerade bottle, so that if the bottle had been full with liquid corresponding to that residue, so it was the same stuff as that residue, the residue contained 2,400 milligrams per deciliter, which is 24,000 milligrams per liter, which is 24 grams per liter. And the bottle was a 20-ounce bottle, 20 fluid-ounce bottle, which is exactly 0.6 of a liter. That's a USDA requirement for labeling, that you have 1 fluid ounce is exactly 30 milliliters. So multiplying those two together, the volume of 0.6 liters and the 24 grams per liter gives us 14.4, I think it was, grams of ethylene glycol in a full Powerade bottle containing a liquid similar to the residue.
Okay. So what was left in the Powerade bottle was sort of a residue amount, a small amount, right?
Yes.
But it had a percentage of it that was ethylene glycol, right?
Yes.
And you remember what that percentage by weight was?
Well, it was about 2.4%. That's 24 grams per liter.
About 2.4%.
Yeah.
And then what you extrapolated is if the bottle had been full to its 20 ounces, then it would have contained, based on the 2.4%, 14.4 grams of ethylene glycol, right?
If it was the same as the residue, yes.
If it was the same.
If the contents of the bottle were the same as the residue, yes.
So in order to get that amount of ethylene glycol that was in Leroy Fowler's blood system, would drinking 1 full bottle of the Powerade have been sufficient?
No.
Okay.
It would require about twice that, two bottles full.
So would it be fair to say that it would require at least 2 bottles?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Camelio.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Before I get to your math, we'll call it, I just wanted to ask you a few questions about ethylene glycol itself, okay?
Yeah.
All right. So ethylene glycol, it's a chemical found in various consumer products, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Well, you wrote that in your report.
Yeah.
So you do know that.
Yes.
And one of the main places that it's found for consumer products is in antifreeze, yes?
I don't know the relative amounts of ethylene glycol in various different consumer products, but antifreeze is certainly a major component.
Okay. Ethylene glycol is a sweet-tasting liquid, yes?
Yes.
Okay. And because it is sweet-tasting, it can be dangerous, correct?
Apparently, yes.
And because it is sweet-tasting and oftentimes colorful, it can be accidentally consumed by some people, right?
Yes, it is indeed accidentally consumed by quite a few people, unfortunately.
And in order to try to prevent people from drinking it when they don't know that it's in whatever they're drinking, this bittering agents are added to it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And unfortunately, bittering agents have been shown to not prevent the ingestion of ethylene glycol, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Once we started adding bittering agents to antifreeze, the number of ethylene glycol poisonings in the United States remained basically the same, correct?
That's true, yes.
Okay. Now, in order to do your calculations, which I will confess, law school did not prepare me for, you had to make some assumptions, correct?
Yes.
All right. You had to make an assumption about the total water in Mr. Fowler's body.
I had to calculate that.
Okay. Well, but you don't know. You calculated based on averages, correct? Based on averages for an average person, 5'10", weighing Mr. Fowler's weight and Mr. Fowler's age.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
So everybody's different, and so
Yes.
those things vary from person to person.
Yes.
Okay. And if an individual is dehydrated, the amount of water in his body will be lower.
Yes.
You also had to make an assumption about how long it takes for ethylene glycol to reach equilibrium in the total body water, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So depending on the number that you choose for that assumption, that would change the amount of ethylene glycol that was present in the body water, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when a drink, and I'll just use my bottled water here as a substitute, when somebody drinks a liquid containing ethylene glycol, or really containing any liquid, first place it goes is into the stomach, correct?
Correct.
From the stomach, it then goes into the bloodstream.
Well, usually from the small intestine or the intestines rather than the stomach, primarily.
And then it hits the bloodstream.
Yes.
And then it starts to make its way through the water in the body.
Yes.
Okay. Now, at some point, a substance like ethylene glycol that hits the bloodstream is going to hit what's called Cmax, correct?
Well, define what you mean by Cmax.
Cmax is the highest concentration of that particular substance in the blood. Yes?
If you define it that way, that's the way it is, yes.
Not familiar with that term?
I've seen it in multiple situations, multiple contexts.
All right.
I mean,
and so Cmax at some point is going to be higher than the concentration of whatever that particular substance is in the body of the total body water, correct?
no. I mean, if it's the concentration in the blood, it's the concentration in the blood.
Well, it's the concentration in the blood, but the concentration in the blood is
Oh,
not the same as the concentration in the water
For some period
of time.
of time, the concentration in the blood will be higher than in the total body water on average, yes.
Exactly. So if the blood was measured at a time when the blood the concentration in the blood was higher than the concentration in the water, that would affect your calculations.
Yes,
And your calculations would essentially not be correct.
they would not be correct if that was true, yes.
So the takeaway from your testimony, as I understand it, is that it's possible that the blood was measured before all of the ethylene glycol hit the water in the body.
In this case, no.
Not, okay. Why not?
Well, Mr. Fowler was observed, I believe, at least 7:30 and possibly earlier, already under the influence of some substance.
Fair.
So
and it can take up to 4 hours in a healthy person for that ethylene glycol to reach equilibrium in the total body, total water body. Correct?
No, it would be a bit shorter than that.
So
2
studies have
hours.
shown between 1 and 4 hours is how long it takes for ethylene glycol to reach equilibrium in the water of the body.
Now, I would say at most 2 hours.
And as you noted in your report, if someone has particular health problems, that can cause it to be even slower.
No, the slower thing in the report is the metabolism, which is a different thing entirely.
So you agreed with me that if the ethylene glycol in the blood was higher than the total body water, your calculations would be incorrect.
If that was true, but in this case it was not.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So your conclusions can either be broken down into two things. I know you're not going to agree with me that your calculations are wrong, but that's one possibility. The other possibility that you're raising is that Mr. Fowler was actually being poisoned in multiple doses.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Well, he had 52 grams per deciliter of ethylene glycol in his blood. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you say there wasn't enough in the Powerade bottle to have gotten his blood to 52 milligrams per deciliter, correct?
Yes.
So the rest of the ethylene glycol that was in his blood had to come from somewhere.
It came from somewhere else than from one drink of Powerade, of that bottle, assuming that the residue is the same.
Assuming that the residue is the same. And that's another assumption you had to make.
That's correct, yes.
Thank you, Judge. I don't have anything further.
Mr. Scully.
Basically, based on your calculations, assuming the residue was the same, it would have had to have drank at least 2 bottles of that Powerade.
Well, there had to be some other source, or not some other source entirely, yes.
No further.
Do you any follow-up on
No,
that?
thank you, Judge.
Thank you very much, Dr. Crouch.
Thank
you may
you.
step down.
Thank you.
The next